Okay, we have the rectifier bridge that is responsible for converting alternating current to direct current. Guess what's in that? Diodes. 3 sets of diodes. And what do diodes do? They stop two-way traffic, right? A diode is a filter, so to speak, and it allows current to go in one direction. So alternating current goes in what way? 2 directions. So we run that alternating current through a bunch of diodes, and all of a sudden we get just DC out the other end. We have a housing that contains the alternator's components and supports the rotor. And so we got a housing assembly, and we have a cooling fan. The cooling fan is to keep that whole thing cool. It definitely generates heat doing what it does, and sometimes the fan is an external fan on the outside behind the pulley, or other times it is inside the housing, inside the little windows in the front of it, and it draws air into it and through the alternator itself. So our first part we're going to look at closely is the rotor. The rotor creates the magnetic field of the generator and produces a current by electromagnetic induction in the stationary stator windings. So this middle section here is the stator, and the rotor spins inside the stator. The generator rotor is constructed of many turns of copper wire coated with a varnish insulation wound over an iron core. All right, so we have an iron core in the middle, and we wrap wire around it, just like in a relay, round and round and round and round, and it's coated. And you can almost see, if you look inside here, we're going to look at it close, but you can see the wires that are wrapped around inside there. And the iron core in the middle. Having the iron core in the middle makes it a bigger magnetic field. The iron core is attached to the rotor shaft. At both ends of the rotor windings are heavy gauge metal plates bent over the windings with triangular fingers called poles. So this thing is made, and then they peen over these things over the side, and they go on top of those windings. These pole fingers do not touch, but rather they alternate or interlace. So these things are a north and a south, and a north and a south, all the way around, and they don't touch each other. So now you can see that we start having some opposing polarity as this thing turns. Right? So now you can look and you can see inside here, it's a whole series of wires, all varnished and wrapped around, and then these things are peened over. And they don't touch each other. These things are interlaced with each other, but they do not touch each other. And these are ones we have at school. So if you look, you can see them. And then here's another one. You can see roughly where it is. The stator would sit right behind it. Right? This is the stator right here that you see in the middle of this. Each triangle is a north and a south, and a north and a south, and a north and south all the way around. Here you can see it again, and you can see the north and the south marked here, and now you can see the way the magnetic field wraps around like a snake all the way around. And when the current runs through it, it's an electromagnet. Now notice over here, right, we got slip rings. This is how power makes it into this when this whole shaft is spinning. Now we come to generator brushes. The current for the field, right, the field is the electricity going through these wires over here. Sorry, that was my phone. So we're going to do this again. Now we have the generator brushes. The current for the field is controlled by the voltage regulator, and it's conducted to the slip rings through carbon brushes. Okay, we control the current that runs through these windings inside here. So if we run current through it, and we have a natural magnetic field formed around these fingers, then that magnetic field gets bigger or lower depending on the amperage that's passed through these brushes. This is called your field current. So we take 2 to 5 amps, we run them through those windings, and they last a long time because it's not too much. When we have a DC generator, all the current generated in the generator flows through those brushes, and naturally they wear out sooner because it's a lot more current, a lot more heat that goes through those. The stator is supported between the two halves of the generator housing. There are 3 copper windings wound on a laminated metal core. This is, you can see the size, right? You can see here that it's sandwiched. Here's the back, here's the front, the middle, and here's the front. So it's locked in between, and we have 3 sets of windings that are arranged, wrapped around those things. As the rotor revolves, its moving magnetic field induces a current in the windings of the stator. So as this rotor spins, we have a magnetic field. We run more amperage through it, and it gets bigger. That magnetic field induces current flow in the windings in the stator. Right? Remember we talked about ignition coils with how we step that up? I'll say it again. This rotor has windings in it. We have a natural magnetic field around it. We then run 2 to 5 amps through it, more when we need it, less when we don't. That creates a bigger magnetic field. That magnetic field affects the electrons in the windings of this stator and generate the power that the alternator ends up putting out. And if you look inside here, you can see these segments all the way around. All of those segments are completely separate components. Every single one of them is separate. It's all cast as one, but they are segments that do not touch. So now you can see where north and south and south and north and north and south and south and north. And as it goes all the way around that, you have magnetic fields collapsing because of polarity change. Right? So as the rotor revolves, it's moving a magnetic field that induces a current in the windings of the stator.